Welcome to this panel where we'll go through content and especially focused on the three countries represented here by Stephanie, France, Alessandro, Italy, and Raúl, Spain. So we'll be focused on these three markets. To get into the topic of this panel, I mean, I prepared a few slides in order to create the context for it. So we went through a long journey in the past 15 years. Everything started with audiences finding a new way to search for content, to find content, and to buy content with the large e-commerce platform at the beginning. And in the years after, everything exploded into many, many different channels, many different business models. Here you have just a few examples of audiences becoming also authors with self-publishing, and audiences being flooded by a huge amount of new and additional content compared to the world before. Or audiences becoming also publishers of themselves in fan fiction platforms like Wattpad, and being a complete overlapping between the two, or the appearance of platforms like Radish, which is a dedicated platform to agent content with a specific business model, or again, how subscription enabled audiobooks to become a big start in the past years through many different platforms. So what happened in the last, say, 5-6 years was that there was a huge fragmentation into many different channels and into many different business models. So what happened was audiences probably were becoming more communities related to their specific genre or content or format or business model, because also the way people are getting access to the content has changed a lot. So in this huge fragmentation, and probably the next or further step will be transmedia, which is not just the sum of single content, but the combination of contents to create new worlds. So there is a long journey for audiences all over the past 15 years. So today, we will, or in this session, in the next hour, we will try to investigate how this journey was also for authors and publishers, with examples in the three countries that are represented here. So what I wanted to ask to our panelists, and we decided to have a first long round of presentations or speeches by them, and then shorter rounds with questions, and I do hope that you will make more questions to them. So the question is how you are using at present content creation, or we can say innovation or diversification, to engage new audiences, or even to engage more your present audiences, given the fact, provided that, I mean, these audiences, again, probably it's better to call them communities instead of audiences, but I mean, are fragmented and spread out throughout many, many different channels. So many more opportunities, but also many more challenges to reach them out. So I would start with Stephanie from Bayard, and you have a presentation, I have some slides, so you can stay there.
Thank you.
And yeah, let's start with France.
Yes, so hello everyone. Thank you, Marco, for the introduction, and thank you, Bookwire, for making this day possible and for inviting me. So as you can see from this picture, I will be focusing. Bayard is a French media company with a strong international reach, and one of our key sectors is kids. So today I will be focusing on our children's sector. And just to show you, the topic today is content innovation. Bayard's initial core business is magazines, so it's right up there. So today we have 38 magazines in France and 120 in the world. But as you can see, we've been innovating across formats for the last 50 years to be able to reach our main mission, which is to reach as many kids as possible in France, but also outside the world, and to help them grow with confidence. And I think as long as you stick to what your initial mission is, you can go across formats, but you always have to keep that as your bearing. And you can come back to your mission every year and decide if it's still right for you. But that is our guiding point. So as you can see from magazines, we are now the leading children's comics publisher in France, second largest children's publisher. We also have an audiovisual department, and we launched 2 years ago a dedicated audio department. We have digital as a strong point as well. We have our own digital platform in France. We bought 2 international applications. We do a lot of things with schools, so we organize webinars every year. Since COVID, before we used to do live events, now we can organize webinars, and we reach more than 100,000 students each year through that. So basically, format is not so much of a problem for us. It is an expertise which you have to have. It's not everyone in Bayard doing magazines, books, and so you need to have some form of expertise. But content innovation, distribution partnerships, and having our own B2C also audience is very important for us. It gives us a lot of data, and it helps us innovate. So today, with that in mind, I'll be doing a focus on audio, 2 examples of audio innovations that we've recently done. Audio is a very good example of how, maybe 20 years ago when we did audio, it was just read-alouds. We would take our magazines, the stories, and just have a good comedian read it out. Today, in a digital world, if you take just, for example, 7 to 12-year-olds, they spend 9 hours a week, average, on digital. So you're competing with children, you're competing with video, you're competing with video games. So you have to have audio innovation, which is really engaging. You can't just read out a story. I mean, however good it is, you really have to engage your audience. So with that in mind, as I mentioned, Bayard is the leading comic publisher for children in France. And that success was achieved not just by great content, which is key, but also we created an imprint called BD Kids, which was a real bearing for parents. It's such a fragmented audio world. If you ask parents, do you know where to find audio for your kids? Do you know who are the audio publishers? They haven't a clue. So we decided not just to launch audio adaptations of our comics, but we created a genre, which is called BD Audio. So we didn't just launch one title, but we launched 4 or 5 to create a segment. And that was very important for us, for our authors, for our distribution partners, for the parents and the children, to see that it was a new genre, audio genre that we were doing, and it was like a bearing for them. They could see and they expect, as in print, the next audio title to come out. So we started with one of our very strong IPs, Anatole Latuile, sold 2 million books, and that was a very good starting point, and we extended it to other characters as well. So for us, it's a way to super serve our book fans, because there's only one Anatole Latuile book coming out each year, because that's how fast you can go in the book industry. And in the meantime, we can have all these audio episodes coming out to reach the fans. And there's a lot of kids on Spotify or in France, there's a lot of audio speakers for children who discover Anatole Latuile through these audio series. So it's a good example to show how the content, but as well the way you present it, is important. Creating a segment, making sure people can identify the genre. So obviously, if you do comics, visual is so important that people are asking us, well, how did you do audio comics without visual? Well, we had to find a concept. So the character Anatole actually speaks to the audience himself, so it really engages the kid. We have a musical opening like you would have in a TV series to create the Siri effect. Anatole says, "Hi, welcome," as if he was talking to you. So really engaging the child in the conversation, and so the child is really embarked in the story. And very importantly also, we did simultaneous distribution on all platforms. Despite the fact that we have our own B2C platform and our own speaker in France, we wanted for this genre to exist, to be available on the same day everywhere, because that's how you can do a marketing plan. If you launch on one, it's such a fragmented audio world that if you launch on one platform and not the other one, it's really hard to do a marketing plan. So here, you know, when we did the marketing plan, we made it easy for parents. We said available on all audio platforms, and then you have to make life easy for parents. So that's one example. Whoops. So yeah, this is just to show all the formats in which Anatole La Tuile exists, and at the same time, we launched nothing to do with audio, but we launched 2 escape game rooms in Paris, and now there's one in Nantes, where it's actually they came to see us. Whoops, I'm going too fast. Whoops, how do you go back?
Down, 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 the push the bottom down. No, the other way.
Yeah, so based on the success of Anatole La Tuile in audio and in print, this Kairos, this escape game company, came to see us and said, oh, we love the way, and it's the audio that gave them the idea, we love the way audio Anatole speaks. We'd love to do an escape game project with you. And so we have the knowledge of kids, and they have the knowledge of escape games.
We have to wait for the presentation.
Okay. And so, yeah, so just how content innovation goes from one format to another quite magically. I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, great. And so another example of content innovation in the kids' audio space, totally at the opposite of our audio comics genre, where I have to go back even more, but yeah.
Forward, I guess you have to go forward. Let's try.
Which was based on existing IPs that were very famous. We figured out that if we look at the publishing industry in France, manga is, comics and manga are the second biggest genre in France after literature. And Bayard is not present on the manga book side because there was already some very well-established publishing companies on that sector. And we thought, well, with so many 10-plus children engaged in manga, maybe there's a space for us in audio. So we got creative, and we decided we would do the first shonen in audio, which we launched just 3 weeks ago.
I don't know if it works.
Oh.
No way.
That doesn't matter,
Sorry.
I'll just talk about it. So it's called Natural Spirit. It's an audio first. There's no print coming from before. But we took all the codes from manga. So we found an author which is specialized in audio. We took a mangaka to do the illustrations, because in audio you often think just about the audio, but because of the marketing, because of social media, you really need key visuals. You sell a lot on one little tiny square, which is visual. So actually visual is very important in audio. And also we were thinking ahead, thinking, if it is a success, maybe it can become a book tomorrow, maybe it can become a video game. So we got the art directors in Bayard very involved in the project, although it was an audio project, to find the right illustrations from the start. And we're very happy because the book department really wants to publish the book now of the series. And the magazines as well want to do serial print from the audio in the magazines. So this time it's an audio first, going into print afterwards. So these are 2 examples of content innovation where we sort of created a space for new distribution, new audiences, and innovation. There would be lots more examples, but I want to leave my colleagues the chance to give their examples as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. I mean, I think that you brought in a lot of, say, insights and a lot of, say, material for questions afterwards. I mean, you talked about data, for example. We, yesterday, in the past 2 days, spoke a lot about data and how they are relevant in order to reach and to engage audiences. And so this is something that we will come back later. And also this very interesting mix between paper and digital, which is still really, really extremely powerful in order to both create content, innovation, and in order to engage actually, engage more your present communities. So now I would move to Italy, to Alessandro and to Feltrinelli Group, or to whatever Alessandro wants to say about the Italian environment.
So thanks for having me here. So I am the Chief Digital Officer of Feltrinelli. Feltrinelli is a company started as a publisher 70 years ago, 69 years ago. Next year will be our anniversary, and currently is the first brick-and-mortar book retailer in Italy, the second e-commerce after Amazon, honestly the only surviving and actually thriving e-commerce in Italy since Amazon arrived here. We are also a publishing group. We are also here in Spain. We control Anagrama and La Central. We are around $500 million revenue overall. Regarding the Italian market, so the Italian market is around 1.7 to 1.8 billion for the trade market. And digital, as you know, Amazon and other platforms do not release data. So the Italian Publisher Association gives an estimate of ebook plus audiobook of 120 million, other more, but I mean 150, that might be the market. Overall, I mean, in print, Amazon in Italy has something like 38, 40, 39% of market share. There was not ebook, I mean, in print. So there was a big growth with COVID, but now is slightly declining. So this year should be less than last year, Amazon market share, and last year was less than the previous year. So brick and mortar bookstores went up again, and probably, I mean, now we are reaching a plateau on the e-commerce side. In the digital market, the Amazon market share is higher, perhaps unfortunately, is higher. So on ebook is something like 68%, and in audiobook with Audible brand is something like 80%. I mean, we are talking about innovation in the publishing industry. I want, I mean, be a little more provocative. So I think that, this is my opinion, it's not Feltrinelli's opinion, I think we have gone through an incremental innovation in the publishing industry. So Amazon, when it arrived, and of course was extremely challenging, many bookstores, retailers went bankrupt, like Borders in the US. But as I said, now the situation has changed. Also, beside Italy, Waterstone is successful in the UK, Thalia is successful in Germany. So, I mean, on the e-commerce, perhaps that is there, of course, will be there, but perhaps is not going. Then self-publishing, of course, has been important in our industry, e-book, audiobook that has been growing a lot everywhere in the last few years, book talk and social. But I believe that with generative AI, I mean, that is something that, compared to what happened till now, I mean, I think that what happened till now, I'm not saying that is nothing, but is very little to what is happening, because, I don't know, art, as you know, with all art and graphic designer, with the platform like Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion are really changing that market. With music, I don't know if you tried something like Audio or other platform. Basically, you can create a beautiful song with a good prompt in second. Video, as you know, with Sora is not yet there, it's not been released, but as OpenAI showed some clips of what Sora, some video of what Sora can do, in Hollywood, some producer said, okay, let's put on hold some 800 million investment in a new production studio, because perhaps, it's dangerous, and it's going to impact also our industry. You cannot do anything. It's going to be, it's like, we are talking about big wave, that it's tsunami. There was an article in the New York Times a few months ago that was saying book publishing has gone through many innovation and has been very good at, make this innovation in the digital part of their business and part of the offer, but this is going to change everything, and you cannot stop it, honestly. You should try to regulate, that's important. The copyright issue, which of course, as being very new, is something that is complex to regulate. So if you create an image on Midjourney or text, who is the owner? But you're not going to stop it. Even because if you stop in Europe, it's going to go in the US. Even if you stop in the US, which is never going to happen, like in Europe, there is China, Russia, so this is big. So let's take an example, audiobook. As you know, HarperCollins already started with the very limited, let's say, first trial on AI-generated audiobook. So they said, okay, only for a long-tail catalog, we will produce that, while for most of the catalog, we will continue to produce on human voices. As Feltrinelli, we haven't produced any one. Of course, everyone is an experiment, but we have not published anything on AI, but it's going to happen. And of course, it's going to change the market, because if an audiobook, let's say, costs 8,000 euro an average, and we have a catalog of 10,000 books as Feltrinelli, it's not the return of investment of many long-tail audio at the current market doesn't allow us as a publisher, not as a retailer, as a publisher to produce that. With AI, you can produce all the long tail. And if you produce all the long tail and the customer has all the long tail, you will have more audiobook listener, because now they don't find many titles. And also for the publisher, there is a big threat, and after I stop here, a big threat on the rights and who will produce the AI audio, because if Storytel, for example, Marco was with Storytel till 2 months ago. Storytel has already launched in Sweden. I don't know which other country. Poland. So, I don't know the name of the switcher. So you have a human voice, and then you can switch to AI voices. I think they developed that with 11 Labs, that currently is the best text-to-speech for audio and podcast platform. But then, if Storytel has their own AI, and Audible is their own AI, and who knows, Spotify launched for podcast their own AI for translation to languages. The publisher doesn't control anymore the product. So you have many products around that you don't control. Now I decide, as a publisher, I decide the voice, I decide the production. So it's very complex, it's very challenging, but is probably the biggest change till Gutenberg in our industry.
Thank you, Alessandro. I picked just two things from your speech. And one is, of course, AI. Gen AI is something we'll talk about also later. And the other one is control, and publishers' control on the content creation, which is something I would also like to talk about. Raúl, what about Spain? What are you telling us about Spain?
Many things, I guess.
Good.
But I'll try not to repeat other things that have been said. So Spain, I speak on behalf of Grupo Planeta, or Planeta's publishing division, I should say. So we are a leading publisher here in Spain with PRH just chasing us, co-leaders in South America. As Grupo Planeta, we are a second bookseller in Spain with Casa del Libro. And we have a quite interesting digital operation in the US. So I would say that we have a good understanding of the market overall, both in Spain, digital, brick and mortar, and the Americas. Spain has been performing very well in the past few years. We've reached levels of revenue that we thought that we will never see again. Pre-pandemics, 15 years ago, the market will be around 1.2 billion euros, maybe, still growing with big and significant effort from both PRH and ourselves and other publishers as well. And in terms of innovation, I would say that Planeta's efforts should be considered modest in terms of innovation. I do agree with you. I was trying to provoke yesterday. I think that our industry is not really very innovative as an industry. The output is quite the same. Of course, we've done a significant effort in terms of growing with the market evolution. We have 3,000 audiobook titles. We've done this since 2017, inspired by Storytel's arrival to the market, Javier Zelaya, who is in the room. It was a great job. And then with Audibles and Nextory and Podimo, other subscription platforms working here in Spain. And so we are very satisfied with the outcome, because we understood that the audiobook was a way to reach new audiences. And when we say new audiences, we are not talking about the same people actually buying books and eventually reading books, but people not buying books. And this is something quite clear when you check the charts of the most listened audiobooks in essentially all-you-can-listen platforms, where consumption is different from a la carte ecosystems. In a la carte ecosystems, like the ebook market, which tends to be in every single market a la carte, charts tend to match the print books charts. And this is something that happens in every a la carte business. In all you can listen, consumption is different. And that's when you see backlist titles rising and having a big amount of the attention of the consumers. People who allow themselves to engage with titles that they didn't feel like they were interesting in the past, or maybe revisiting titles that they read when they were younger. And so we understood that we had to have a different approach to this market. Of course, trying to do a huge effort to produce as much as audiobooks we could, but this is a lost battle. We have more than 30,000 titles in Planeta, and we publish every year 3,000 titles. So it's impossible to produce everything in audiobook. So we have to decide what we have in audiobook. And then we have this challenge as well that we have the accent matter. Of course. So we have titles, in Spanish titles, of course, tend to be in a Spanish accent. But then the question will be, which accent shall we have for American fiction in Mexico or in the US? And one answer could be, of course, in some neutral Latino accent, which is the accent actually listened in the US. So we had to decide which catalogs to produce in audio. And that's, of course, a constant decision we have to review up to the new metrics we have from platforms, understanding as well as audiobook is reaching, as we said, different audiences. Each platform in this is a growing market, growing very fast, but this is still a niche market. And so each platform gets to reach specific audiences, different targets of audience. So we can see different engagement and in terms of what is being consumed in Next Story, for instance, than what we find in Audible, than what we find in Podimo. In Podimo, this is very driven by podcast authors, very close to news and to what happens in Instagram, for instance. And so we have to, we used to decide to make an audiobook maybe 3 years ago, counting on the KPI, the proxy will be the expected sales in the print markets. Now we have understood that for some specific markets, for instance the US or some Spanish audiences in some specific platforms, mid-list non-fiction title with modest expected sales can perform very well when being in this specific ecosystem. So at the end, we have to review completely the way we decide to publish audiobooks and how do we support in terms of marketing as well. And as we say, having backlist titles being so important, we can afford to have only novelties-driven marketing, and we need to start doing author-centric marketing around backlist, for instance. And so our approach has been completely different. But when I say, and the outcome is great. Now maybe 25% of the unit sales, in terms of fiction come from digital. And as I said, this is a new audience, so we are very satisfied. But 25%. Because I think we cannot compare, how digital important is having the whole market, because children's book, it's difficult to have a digital market equivalent in children's book, and for non-fiction illustrated books as well. You don't expect anything from digital, no? So that I think the benchmark should be with fiction and generalist non-fiction. But when I say it's modest, I say it because I think as publishers, okay, we've done what we had to do to have our catalogs available in the regular formats, I would say, and in every model. In Planeta, we are agnostic. No? We say, okay, we go for subscription, we go for a la carte. But how content is being consumed, and I'm not talking just about written content, but generally speaking content, and we talk a lot about audiences on the past 2 days, for people below 30, 35 years old, has changed so fast in so many ways that probably we should be more open-minded about how to deliver content to these new audiences. And I'm talking about how the content is, let me say, packaged, which is not very intellectual, cultural approach, and delivered in terms of channel, and in terms of model as well. And probably we are far away from this question still.
Thank you, Raúl. Very interesting. And well, the need to create and exploit IPs instead of just creating content to be sold through the traditional channels is a trajectory with I would like to also to investigate a bit more. But let us go back for a while. One thing is, it's very interesting that the three of you spoke about audio as probably the one of the innovation in the publishing industry right now, which is true, but probably audio is existing in the publishing industry since many years. So it's the way the audio content is being delivered to the audiences and also being produced with AI is something that are the elements, the innovation elements inside the story. But let's go back a little bit to AI. In Italy, there was an experiment made by Gian Domenico Baccalario. He asked an author and instructed OpenAI, several, a generative AI platform, to write a story, a novel, about a specific topic. And this book was published with a true production by Il Castoro in Italy. The title of this book is Viaggio oltre l'ignoto, Trip Beyond the Unknown, something like that. And, well, I haven't read it, but I mean, it was, of course, a provocation to compare an artificial content with a human-produced content. Are you ready to produce fully Gen AI-produced content, to publish something of that kind? Are you ready to do that?
You're pointing.
Well, you start, Stephanie.
I mean, as Raúl was saying, we already have, so many titles that we haven't published in so many formats that there's like no emergency for us to. We have a lot of content that we, and we get thousands of great manuscripts each year. So I mean, we're not lacking of content. I think today we have more of a discoverability problem but the content itself, we have a lot. So I don't think we're in shortage of great human content.
The question is why?
Then when you mention AI, the value chain is long, and in production, AI has been super useful, pre-production, especially in audio, when you have to check proof, for example, you've recorded a 15-hour book, and you want to make sure the master hasn't, skipped a little bit. 15 hours of someone listening to it, when you have great AI companies that can you put the script in and you put the audio file and it compares in a few minutes. That is such a gain of time. In marketing, if you have Mid-Journey that can help you, you have to do so many different sizes of images for social media. If you can put it in there and say, I want it in that format, this format, that format, I mean, that is super helpful. Working on metadata with AI, connecting it with Google search, all that is, so I think on our side we want to put more effort into the discoverability than on the actual content itself. We did do some attempts, and again, children is very specific, but we did do some attempts of doing an audiobook from print with artificial voices. And it's not just, I mean, the voice was great. It's the rhythm, the emotion that wasn't right, and it took us, we had to add little silences, to make it like not too linear. And that's all about emotions, and it took us more time to correct that than to actually record it. So, I think we have to be open-minded, and we're still going to test and invest and look. But for the moment, I see much more advantages on the discoverability, metadata marketing side than on the actual voice itself. But, we're not close to... And then to take another example, we also sell rights to other countries for our books. We're French, we're not English or Spanish, so it's not the most well-known language in the world. So sometimes we have great books, and then the people who want to buy the rights, they can't read or understand what we're... So we do it in, with AI. It's not to be printed or to be done as an audiobook, but they can at least understand if they want to buy the rights. So, we've been using it in many ways, but not yet as a full product. Maybe one day.
So your very, very provocative question. I'm not the editorial director, but I mean, if I don't want to, let's say that I don't want to publish an AI book. What about the author? What I know that the author is doing, I'm sure that the author there are some authors that said that they are using AI. There was, for example, the famous Japanese that won the Akutagawa Prize, which is a literary award. It's not a commercial fiction award. But how many are not telling and they are using? And it's improving very fast, and is going to improve very fast. And I mean, so ChatGPT-4 was launched, I don't know, I don't remember, but some months ago. But they were working to ChatGPT-4 1 year before, and they were testing with people, and after people told them that some, so for example, the founder of Khan Academy, he was testing 8 months ago. So now they already have a better model. And when we tested, not to produce a book, but was not yet ready to write a full novel, but was very good at offering you idea, and I mean, especially for genre novel, which honestly often are not that. So it's, I mean, there are some very some possibility. I think that they will be able to produce a fiction. And it's interesting, every year they ask to AI expert all around the world, the survey, what do you think, when do you think it will happen, this, and this? The last survey was 2,000 experts all around the world. So they ask about several tasks, of course, that has nothing to do with publishing. And then they ask, when do you think an AI book will make the New York Times bestseller list? And that was the thing that had the biggest shift in terms that they were expecting in 2000, last year, the year before this, in 2050, and now it's in 6-7 years. So this thing has impressed. So if you see many AI experts, they are amazed at how is going quicker. But then to go on another thing, probably the publisher will have a role, because we will be flooded by contents, crap contents, good contents, pretty fairly good content, but as we will have a lot of contents, the publisher would say, okay, this is what AI, non-AI, partially used with AI, this is what is filtering. I mean, probably I imagine in a few years that all of us, we will be important because the reader will say, okay, this has come from Planeta, this comes from Feltrinelli, this comes from Bayard. Probably is good. So I see a role for the publishers.
Interesting. Raúl.
So I should say two different things. First is that we've been since April 2023, so more than 1 year, asking our clients to sign a clause in our contracts specifying that they cannot use our content to train their machine learning AI ecosystems. And I should say that everybody except for one American platform has signed. Other American platforms, Scandinavian platforms, saying in many cases that these clauses are redundant, because when you have a licenses agreement, I mean, you're licensing the right, I mean, to sell your content and anything else. So that's, I mean, our perspective from Planeta in terms of how this content should be used or not in training these AI ecosystems. But on the other hand, we think that we cannot deny reality, as you said, no? And we need to understand how these new tools are going to change, they're going to impact the whole ecosystem. And so we've been trying to understand, to assess, and of course it's constantly evolving, which is leads to a permanent exercise, to understand how it impacts everything we do. I have to say that we started working with TTS, text-to-speech, artificial voice, synthetic voice technologies, 3 years ago, and with different companies. Since there, we have been producing many titles. We have like 200 audiobooks made with synthetic voices. These audiobooks don't replace what we do with human narrations. They allow us to make available backlist catalogs from niche genres, which otherwise wouldn't be available, so everybody's happy. You have a learning curve. So 3 years ago, we were engaging with different companies, one in the Middle East, one in the US, one in Spain. Then once we understood the technology, we hired someone. So in our team, we have someone dedicated to work with this station and editing all these outputs so we can have perfectly tuned audiobooks that can match the expectations of customers. And we work with different platforms. I remember different conversations with Storytel in Sweden or Next Story, trying to understand what will be the reaction of people, so we could assess if the quality was right. Then a couple of weeks ago, we released an audiobook with a cloned voice, and that was suggested by the author. I mean, we haven't cloned any voice, but that was the author, non-fiction, management author, always trying to do different things. And he came to ourselves, I mean, with the printed version, and say, that's cloned voice. We were shocked. So we have been working with the company behind to understand how it's done. And it's, of course, 11 labs everywhere, no? Behind the switcher in Storytel and working with HarperCollins in New York as well, and with different people working with them in Europe. So we try to understand, because sometimes, I mean, it's the same author. I mean, audiences want to have the voice of the author. And I mean, we all love books. We're here for passion. We have our beliefs and values, and we stick to them. But at the same time, everything evolves. And we assume that we cannot prevent everything from evolving, so we need to understand. And in terms of wholly creating AI content, we did some experiment a few months ago. We hired a children's editor from a very big publishing house, which is not Planeta. And for a few months, we were working with people, innovation people from our company and this editor, trying to tune the prompts to understand how good could be the output in terms of an editor's expectation. And probably there is no highest demanding editor than a children's editor. And we were astonished by the results. Absolutely, I mean, scared, astonished and scared. And we did the whole process with the covers as well, and the TTS for the audiobook. And we ran tests internally with editors, the kind of A/B test. I'm going to put something made by a machine. Oh, I don't want to hear it. And the evaluation will be bad. And then, working with the kind of demonstration, just putting the audiobook files, and editor say, oh, that's great. Who was the editor behind this? And we run like a small test with platforms as well. And the engagement was good. And then we have pull out. We're here because we believe in what we do and how we do it, of course. But this is going so fast.
Yeah.
We need to understand how it goes.
Oh, yes. Testing is the best way to learn. And you mentioned that author who came to you with his voice, basically. This happened also in Sweden, where an author came to Storytel and said, okay, this is my voice, please use it, clone it, make whatever you like with it, because this is a way for me to gain more money, because while I'm, say, in tournée with a performance throughout Europe or throughout Sweden, I mean, I can get money from my, say, voice cloned by you to record and to record a new title. So it's an additional, say, revenue stream for the voice, for the actor. So, but I mean, if you have questions, please raise hands. One question. The microphone, the mic. Is here the first.
My question is specifically about children's books. So, Stephanie, just wonderful to learn about your company, and we do a lot with David Fickling books in the UK. They are passionate and have a mission about comic books. For years, they published Jamie Smart. He sold 1 million copies. Comic books are really hot at the moment. But on the first day of the conference, we heard that there's like a crisis of reading for pleasure amongst children. That reading has become about testing. And what do you see your model in terms of content and engagement as being potentially a solution to helping children to just fall in love with reading again? Because we hear a lot about readers and this Reader 2.0 thing where they're measured and tracked, and you just can't do that with children. And so I'm just interested to know whether what your thoughts are about this this reading for pleasure crisis and how we address that with technology.
Yeah, I'd say the time. You know, child has only that much time, and we're competing with so many different media, and you know, some are more attractive in sense of less effort to be made. So it is a real challenge, you know, as we've seen that the age of owning a first device go down from 11 years old to 9 in just 5 years. So that's, and we can see the parallel in our reading figures going pretty much down the same path in terms of age. Used to be that when kids reached 12, some would continue to be super readers, but less. But under 12s, it was, you know, parental prescription or just, and that's really going down. But we're still managing to maintain, and the diversification hasn't really changed that much. So it's also how you engaged the reader in. So we try to do, you know, series so that the children, you know, you know, as I said, you know, when I showed the audiobooks, audio comics genre, or when we did Better Kids, I think also kids are lost for what to choose. There's so much choice for them. So I think branding and being a publisher with strong beliefs, and we do a lot of effort of you know, I think format marketing is really important as well. So, you know, showing all the benefits of reading and how it can relate to their lives, how they can relate to the characters themselves is really important. But we are finding it that time is, you know, how we share time with other media is becoming and I think getting parents involved as well and teachers is very important. Because, you know, it is easier to just say, oh, here's the iPad, spend as much time as you want. And there's great things on iPads as well. I'm not trying, you know, there's a lot of great digital stuff, but I think it does take also, you know, telling parents also as well, you know, why reading is important. And so that's why we also organize webinars and we try also to do challenges, parents and kids, you know, have to create, to reinstall that link. Encourage parents to recommend books that they like, or kids to talk about books to their parents. So I think it's all, yeah, it's also about encouraging parents to also find time for reading. For example, in schools in France, they introduced this year something called the 15-minute reading. And every day at school, they have 50 minutes. And instead of saying you have to read that book, which is a bit, you know, in the old days, that's what we had at school. We all had to read the same book. They say, bring your own book. And there's a library in the school, and they can pick if they don't want. And whether it's a manga, a comic book, it doesn't matter, or a literature book, it's okay, as long as, but it's to reinstall that time. So I think it's a collective thing to make reading not something against, you know, it's not screen time against, it's you know, it's, and I think it's also the values, you know, values, it's how you relate, do the books relate to the kids, that's important.
Thank you, Stephanie. More questions, or? Well, I have one say, final question, because 7 minutes are missing, 7:30. So going back to the very first question I made, I mean, we talked about control of channels, control of some production, say, items. And so over the, let's call it value chain, I mean, publishing value chain, in my opinion, publishers are losing more and more control on part of it. Many more channels, many more communication tools, or again, channels or platforms to reach audiences and so on, which are not under the direct control of publishers. So at the beginning, many years ago, controlling bookstores, controlling distribution was controlling basically everything inside there. So does this mean, and we also viewed a wonderful example from Bayard creating a very strong IP, and around that IP creating many different formats to distribute that content in many different channels to reach many different audiences. So is this a trajectory for publishers? I mean, becoming more IPs creators instead of, creating catalogs or large amount of contents to be sold throughout channels. Is this a trajectory you see and you recognize, or what is your opinion?
Yes, and so to stay with kids and adolescents, but and to make an example on a different book market, so the one for schools, so the K-12. So as you know, one limit of generative AI, even though they are working on that, is hallucination. So Gemini is particularly fun because recently suggested to eat small rocks every day, or putting glue in pizza, I think it was pizza. But I mean, why there is this problem? Part of this problem is because these models learn about all the human contents on the internet. So, by the way, also on all our books, pirate all our books. So we don't give permission, but they do anyway. But also on crap. So, however, you can use those models, training them. I mean, there is RAG. I mean, there are some techniques. Training them on good contents, on publisher contents. So, for example, in school, now a publisher that sells books to kids and teachers will be able to develop some tools. Now our chatbot, but then you have also audio, video, you will have everything, but train on good contents. And so, again, the publisher will use their own content to offer new tools to, in this case, kids as a sparring partner to study. Because, okay, as a kid, you can, let's say, cheat and ask OpenAI to do your homework, but then you still have to be live and have interrogation, so they will be able to be a good sparring partner in study, helping a teacher to correct assignment or create assignment. But we have still a role, actually a big role, because if I'm selling a machine, a tool with my books that is on good content, that will make a difference compared to a general machine that is not good on good content. We made some experiment on that. We used the OpenAI or Anthropic. There are a few very good, but limiting them on our own ancient Greek history. So the kids will hopefully interrogate and say, okay, now what happened to, I don't know, Plato, what said Plato? So yes, that's an example.
Raúl?
In terms of IP, I don't know exactly how to answer your question. I mean, I don't understand it. What's the real question? What do you have in mind?
The real question is that, I have in my mind some examples of the large, say, media Eastern corporations in Japan, China, and Korea. These are IP creators. And not accidentally, they all come from ITs. They are technology companies coming to content. And the business model is creating huge IP and then selling rights over these IPs to all the different channels. I mean, Netflix bought a lot of Korean content, for example, created by Naver and Kakao. So is this something that is specific to that market, to those markets? Western countries are different, or here we have a tradition in publishing completely different, which makes this very, very unlikely to happen.
My guess is that this is something that can happen, for instance, in the video games industry. I mean, you create an IP or the video industry, with Disney, for instance. From my perspective, it doesn't make any sense in the publishing industry. Each book is a prototype, and low entry barrier business, where each book is a prototype. But then if we recall, for instance, what Richard Sharkin said 2 days ago, for children today, books are not anymore the primary source of knowledge. When these children will be adults, they won't consider books as the primary vehicle for prestige neither. Probably when they think about creating, they won't think about books. They'll think about something different. Audiovisual, probably, based models. All the non-fiction publishing ecosystem, I don't see how it can survive as it exists today, delivering, for instance, 300 pages for an idea as an item. So maybe in the future, 20 years from now, those old legacy publishers standing in the future will need to think about IPs and delivering content in different ways. But then again, the question will be, are the publishers those, or the authors, the real IP owners?
Thank you very much for your contributions, and thank you for listening and for your attention. Time is over.